going to dive in a little deeper to the story of my first public land buck. So this story starts back in March of 2022 in the spring. 4 of us cousins went out to southern Ohio to scout some public out there. We never hunted out there, and it was the first out-of-state trip together as a group of cousins. So we were fired up. We wanted to start filming our hunts and stuff. So last year we did really good. We killed 2 buck. We were super excited about that. So going into this year, we had a lot of high hopes. Put a lot of miles on the ground again in the spring and in the summer. We took a trip out in March again this year and another trip out in August. So checked a bunch of cameras, scouted new spots, you know. We headed out to Ohio on September 29th. Opening day was the 30th of September. Opening day, I didn't see nothing. And I actually didn't see nothing for 5 straight sits, so I was feeling pretty low, you know, with all the scouting we did and stuff, just not having any action. So this takes us to October 2nd, Monday morning. Didn't see anything. That was my 5th straight dry sit. So we went back in, got some breakfast, kind of trying to get a game plan together. We weren't really getting on the deer. Colin had one good encounter, but besides that, it was barely any deer sightings. If we did see any, it was does, small bucks. So Monday afternoon, we all just took a nap, you know, laid down the camper. We were bushed. It was really hot, muggy. Wendell was the only one that didn't sleep. He got up, went out and checked the trail camera. That was just a few hundred yards off the road, but it was in a clear cut. On that camera, there was, I believe, 8 different shooters on that camera within like the last week. So he came back in, showed us all. The hope came back, you know, we actually might be able to get on these deer. So Wendell got really aggressive. He pushed up pretty close to the clear cut, and so did Amy. And so that left me with a couple options of where to sit. The bottom that I was hunting, it split like 3 ways. So there was pretty much 3 hubs there. The one looked really good. It was right up, down from a clear cut. So I decided to pick that one. Walking in the bottom, it was super thick, you know. There was downfall. So I had good cover getting back in there, and also the wind was in my face the entire time, blowing straight down the drainage. I was down in the creek bottom, just really taking my time. It took me about 2 hours to walk back in there and get set up. So I was going into this spot blind. We had never been down in this specific hub that I was intending to hunt. I was going back in there hoping that I could find a community scrape or some hot acorns. So I walked about 800 yards down this drainage, and then it started opening up, you know. The points started dropping down in. There was 3 points. The one was clear cut, and the other dropped down from the west and the north. Once the bottom started opening up, it like cleared out too. So it was a little more open, so I could see further, you know. And I stood there just looking around, looking for sign, and this huge scrape caught my eye. One of the biggest scrapes I've seen. It was torn up, tracks in it. You could see right where the buck was scraping. It had just happened in the last, you know, 1 or 2 days. Just like that, I was like, okay, I'm on the deer. I'm right in on the deer. There's a clear cut. Buck's probably bedded up there. There was this huge scrape here, community scrape, and also a couple feed trees, some white oaks that were dropping, and I could tell the deer had been feeding there. You know, the leaves were all turned up. So I set up on this scrape. I was 22 yards from the scrape. Got up in the tree. So I was just sitting there, you know, scrolling through the pictures on my phone, just hoping one of them comes by. The wind was absolutely perfect. It was blowing from the scrape to me, straight down the drainage behind me where I had access from. So you can't get it any more perfect than that. So around 6:15, start hearing footsteps up in the clear cut. I heard something walking. Sounded like it was maybe 80 yards from me. Couldn't pick it out. It was real thick over there. Super thick clear cut. But I got the camera ready, grabbed my bow, you know, and the footsteps kept getting closer and closer and closer, and I was like, okay, this is a deer by itself. It's 6:15. I figured it was probably a buck coming to check the scrape. He was heading right toward the scrape. Didn't see the buck till he was about 30 yards away from me. And by then I had the bow in my hand. I was facing him. The camera was rolling. I was completely ready. So the scrape's here, the clear cut's here, and I'm expecting the buck to walk straight down off the point to the scrape, but he actually started coming toward me before he turned to the scrape. So I kind of had to turn around, and right before he came on this side of the tree, he stops and turns completely toward the scrape, starts walking. I quickly draw back when his head's behind the tree, and he either heard me draw back or he caught a glimpse of me drawing back and instantly just picked me out. So I was already getting nervous, you know. I already saw it was a shooter. I saw the tines. He was coming straight toward me like this, so that's pretty much what I saw. And when he turned, I saw his G2s. So I'm full draw. This buck knows I'm there. He either saw me draw or he heard me draw. And he couldn't, I don't think he could quite see me like up through the brush. So he wanted to get a better look at me, try to figure out what I am. He couldn't smell me. So he was probably just curious what he heard or what he saw. He took like 3 or 4 more steps until he got a clear view of me. And he looked straight up at me, looked me dead in the eyes, stomped his foot, you know. He was probably just ready to bust. He was quartered really hard, but I just remember burying my pin right behind the shoulder. I was just telling myself, don't hit the shoulder, don't hit the shoulder. And I snuck it right in there. Just missed the back of the shoulder, and it was pretty high, but with the angle, he was 12 yards. With the angle, I was pretty positive that I had caught at least one artery. So the deer just wheeled around and took a death dash. I knew I smoked him. One thing that I did wrong there is I didn't stop and listen to hear if he crashed. I was so amped up, I honestly didn't even think about it. I was just like, yes, I smoked him. So I didn't hear him crash. Stopped and listened a couple times while I was celebrating and stuff. If you want to know what happens next, go check out the full video on YouTube.